Okay, hey guys, how's it going? We're going to be looking at prefabs today. Prefabs are a Unity asset, basically basically a shorthand for prefabrication. Prefabrication is basically you create an object in your scene and you say you've created it, you want to use it in other places without having to duplicate it. You make that a prefab. Now, a prefab is, in order to make one, first you have to do is go to your assets folder, go to create, go to folder, and type in prefab. And it has to be called prefab. That is Unity's way of determining like anything in this folder will be automatically converted to a prefabrication. So last time we made a spike in lava, say I want just a bunch of spikes everywhere, right? If I just go ahead and drag this from the hierarchy, drag it inside our prefab folder, you'll see that it turns blue in our hierarchy, stating that it is in fact a prefab. So I can right click it and you'll see that we can actually look at the prefab asset. Unpacking the prefab completely means that we make this object here no longer connected to the prefab that we have in our asset. However, we don't want to do that. So let me just undo. Yep, there we go. Now in prefabs, you can actually, in the asset folder, click on one, and you can double click it to open it up. And you can modify it as you'd like. And any modifications done to a prefab affects every other clone of it you have in your scene. So if I edit this collider here, make it back to the normal way, and that we have it. Close enough, right? Make that 0 here. That's basically back to how we had it before, right? We save that. We click this little arrow here to go back to our scene. If we click on the spike, you can see that it actually modified the collision. And what we can do is that we can grab from the prefab folder, we can grab it, drag it out, and just make a lot of other spikes. Cool thing about prefabs is that you can think about this basically as each one of these things are the exact same object, the exact same prefab here. And if you modify and apply a modification to one of these things, it applies to them all. This is basically a reference to each object. Oh, it's called spike. If you have a bunch of things in your scene that are basically the same, consider making them a prefab. One, you won't have to duplicate it as much, and you'll have it preset and already made in your folder to access whenever. And two, it actually reduces runtime a lot because it's not rendering multiple different objects, it's rendering just one object and placing its data everywhere. It's really nice to have. Okay, so I can do that, right? I have all these prefabs now. And I'll make another empty here, call it spikes. Click all these babies. And I just drag them in. I can click on the parent to move all of them if I want to. So I can make a little area if I would like, but I'm just gonna keep them like that. And let's say I want them all to be prefabs, but I want them to do different amounts of damage. You can actually do that. I can change this to 20, change this to 30, change this to 40, right? And if I click on them, they all keep their different damage values, and you can see here that the ones we did modify have been bolded, and they have a little blue thing here. And you can see in the top, there's this thing called overrides. If I click on it, you can see that there's an item there's something that changed that happened. If I click apply all, that means it'll, as it says, apply all overrides the prefab spike. So all the spikes that I have will change their damage amount to 20 if I click apply. But if I keep it like this, then each of these spikes are customized technically, but they're all the same object. So if I click play, I go to the first spike. Let me click on the console. There we go. I have 90 that did 10 health. This one did 20 health. You can see 90 to 70 is 20. 70 to 40 is 30, and I click on this one, I'm dead. Right? So that actually works. Our prefabs are working as we want. And it's nice and fast, and I can have it here as I want. One thing to note with prefabs is this, right? Prefabs work because they're not tied to any one scene. So say I had, if I, for some reason, my damage dealer script did a public game object player, right? And I just wanted a reference to the player. If I go to spike here, there's going to be no player object. There's going to be no game object here because a spike is self-contained. It only has access to everything in of itself. So I can't just have a reference to the player in every single spike prefab. I would have to individually add that here. So I have to drag the player over. But that won't affect the prefab that you create because it's all self-contained. That's something to keep in note. If you have a prefab that requires a lot of dependencies, maybe look to making that split, and so that way it only depends on itself. And a way you can do that is on if I keep player and I added the public void, private void like start, right? The unity mono behavior start. I could do player is equal to GameObject.find player, right? And it'll automatically find the player and the scene that is created in it without having to put a reference to it. But damage dealers don't work that way, so we don't need a reference to the player to do damage. But that's basically all you need to know about prefabs. We'll be using prefabs a lot. So I'm going to make a lava prefab as well, just so we have it. I can just place more lava everywhere. And we got a few lava pools. We can actually make our player a prefab too. Why not? These are all self-contained, and you can make self-contained prefabs. That is the point of it. All right, so next time we're going to be looking at translating our health that we have into something called a UI. See you guys then.